Alright, so we're just gonna continue on um, in CSS development. Gonna be kind of doing a couple other things, like I'm gonna try to create either some web projects or start on the InVCAP website to kind of reflect some of the concepts. But for today, I'm just gonna kind of make it straightforward one. We're just gonna continue on with the CSS module. So, all right. So it says, by now you should be familiar with the basic elements of an HTML should have. Yep. Set up your code with a doc type declaration. I always forget the doc type. Not gonna lie, but I can look it up. It's just kind of the memorization stuff. I'm not too worried about because, you know, I feel like that's something I can just look up. Worst case scenario. This looks like it's doc type. Has an exclamation mark before it. And just HTML, lowercase. Looks like that's the doc type declaration. Alright, now an HTML element. So an HTML element, and let's have a closing tag. And we're gonna have a head. And a body element. I think that's all it's asking right now. Oh, okay. So HTML, I think it's lang equals n to make the language English. All right. Yeah. So with the head element, add a meta tag, which sets the okay. So with the head element, add a meta tag. Which sets the char set to UTF-8. Hold on. See if I remember how to do this. I think that would just be I know for the title. Okay, if anything, I'm forgetting that one. But title, I know that. So I'm gonna make sure this is all recording. Yeah. But a title, that would just be the closing right there. I guess I could just copy and paste this text right here. And then that requirement is met. Within the body element, add an image element. Okay, an image element. An image element with the source. I guess the source. Didn't copy. Alright, hold on. Copy, paste. Alright, looks like that worked right there. I know it's a single element, so there we go. So I know I met this requirement. I know I met the title. If anything, I think I'm blanking on the UTF one. Okay, so it's a separate tag. Okay, hold on. Yeah. UTF-8. For some reason I thought it would be an attribute. And I think it would have a closing, because it would mean that everything would need to encapsulate under it. Or does it? So I'll take this out. Alright, so the code just passes. The code passes. Okay. So we're meeting the requirements. Let's go to next challenge. In the CSS box model, every HTML element is treated as a box with 4 areas. Imagine you receive a box from your favorite online retailer. The content is the item in the box, or in our case, a header, a paragraph, or an image element. Alright. So we're going to change the source in the image element from this to this. So I'm going to get rid of this. And I'm going to copy it and paste. Okay. I guess what they mean by 4 areas are 4. Hold on. Box with 4 areas. They mean this, and then the padding. That's 2. And the border, and then outside of the border. Imagine you receive a box from your favorite online retailer. The content is an item in the box, and in our case, a header, a paragraph, or an image element. Okay. Alright. So let's continue on. That's correct. The content is surrounded by a space called padding. Similar to how bubble wrap separates an item from the box around it, the border is like a cardboard box your item was shipped in. So it's kind of like, imagine padding. So kind of like a way to imagine it is like, let's say this is, the blue is the item, and the padding is the wrapper, right, is what they're saying. And then within the wrapper, like the bubble wrap, whatever it is, then it's the box, the cardboard box. So it's kind of like another padding. I'm kind of wondering what distincts them, actually, because I feel like it's hard to tell where the padding would end and the border would begin. Um, so anyway, um, gonna change. Yeah, what we have to do, we have really easy requirements. What we have to do is change. Um, I guess they want us to change the images to what they want, and that's all we have to do. So there that goes. Congratulations, the code passes. We're on step 4. So let's kind of look at this image. Oh, okay. So we have the content, the padding, the border, and the margin. See, as we have the margin, the border, the padding, and the content. Okay. Kind of wondering. To be honest, I don't have a clear difference of what distincts these. Like, how do we know when the padding ends and when the border begins, or when the border ends and when the margin begins? That's kind of a confusing concept, because they just kind of seem like they do the same thing. They're just outer layers. That's kind of what I'm struggling with. Step 5. Margin is the area outside of a box and can be used to control the space between other boxes or elements. So it's the area outside of the box and can be used to control the space between other elements. Okay, so I mean, it's kind of gonna do the same thing. It's gonna make sure that other elements, like let's say this is an image, it's gonna have like, it's almost like a restraining order. Like no image can be that in anywhere near here. It can't be close. It can't be that close. So it's almost like thinking of it as a restraining order, where no other element can be. So margin is the area outside of the box that can be used to control the space between other boxes or elements. Here, the bottom element has a larger top margin, pushing it further down the page. Yep. Remember, we didn't need to do this before. Scrolling. Now that we understand the CSS box model, let's get started on the, I'm just going to try to pronounce it, the Rafku painting. Remove the image element. Now saying just remove the image element. Remove everything, I guess. So that passed the code, just removing the only image element. That's what they wanted us to do. So add a div element in the body. Okay. And set the class attribute equal to canvas. Equal to canvas? Just make a canvas? I think that's what they mean. This will act as a canvas for your painting. Okay, I mean, if that's what they want us to do. Okay, and that code seems to pass. So we're on to step 7. Before you can start styling the div you added, you need to link your CSS to the HTML, to your HTML. Alright, before you can start styling the div element you added, does it have the div element we added? Oh, yeah, it does. You need to link your CSS to your HTML. Add a link element to your style.css file. We didn't actually make one, but yeah, so it's going to be in the head, and I think it is just called link. I know this isn't how you make actual links, but is there something for... Alright, I don't know if my memory's serving me good on this. Okay, relative. Yeah, I guess repetition is key. Because it's kind of a matter of not memorizing the syntax. Okay, so it always link an external style sheet. So now we didn't build this one yet, but sometimes what they have you do is they have you link to something that we're going to build. So then as we modify this, you'll be able to see it in the actual, you'll be able to see its effect. Unless they built one for us. But to link an external style sheet, it's link, and then you have to say, it's kind of like the relevance. Why are you linking? It's a style sheet, and then you have to link the style sheet with an href. Okay, I can try to remember that. So it looks like we're in the styles. Now we're in the external style sheet. So even though your div has no text, it's still treated as a box with content. Yep, I agree with that. Write a CSS rule that uses the .canvas class selector and set its width to 500 pixels. Here's a CSS rule that sets the width of the class card to 300 pixels. I mean, I could do that. I don't know if... Oh, okay. Now that makes sense. So that's just an example, because I knew how to do that. So remember, it's dot canvas. That's when we named it. I thought that was a part of the code for some reason. And it wants to make the width 500 pixels. Looks like it worked. Add the height property with the value of 600. Just one moment. I gotta bring my computer closer. Alright, congratulations, your code passes. Change the background color of canvas to this, okay? I believe that's just background color, right? And it wants it to set it to this hexadecimal value. Which appears to be some brownish color. That code appears to pass. Every painting needs a frame. Wrap the .canvas element in another div and give that div the frame class. Okay, so I think what it's asking me to do is it wants me to create another div element over the canvas div element. So now we just opened and closed a div element, but we want that div element apparently to Was this here before? I don't know, that's kind of strange. Oh. Okay, I'm not gonna ask. I don't know why that is a slash. But doing what they're asking me to do, we're gonna call this frame, I guess. So it's to basically put the canvas development in another development, and that's gonna have a class of frame. So remember, how this works is that means that whatever we add to the frame class is gonna the canvas is gonna be inherited if it's inside of it. Okay. So it says congratulations, the code passes. There we go. Write a new rule using the .frame class selector. Okay. So looks like we're outside of the canvas element, and the order doesn't matter here. But now we're within that frame class. Element, a solid black border and a width of 50. Okay. I'm not sure if I'm remembering it properly. Okay, so yeah, so I think the biggest kind of thing I'm running into, and I'm certainly running into it, is remembering the syntax properly. So I kind of guessed the syntax, that I did know it was, I got this part right, I guess, but it should be, you see the width. So it looks like this, but it's supposed to look like this. Let's see. And I'm just going to get rid of the top one. So this is the correct way. So as you see, it's actually it is adjusting to it, the preview. So if I just get rid of the first one, the code should pass. Alright, so yeah, it's just a matter of repeating and remembering the syntax from here. The frame is much too wide. In .frame, set its width to 500 pixels. Okay, so we're in frame, so I'm just going to set the width to 500 pixels. Test passes. Use padding to adjust the spacing within an element. In .frame, use the padding shorthand property. Alright, I'm not really good with remembering these shorthand properties. Shorthand property to increase the space between the .frame and .canvas elements. Okay, and if you think about it, given I'm doing that through padding, and given canvas is within frame, I would imagine that would be done, but it's in .frame. Then how would that be between? how would that be 50 pixels? The shorter will increase the space in the top, bottom, left, and right of the borders and the canvas within. Alright, so I'll try it. I think that would just mean I would need to make it 50 px because it's the same for the top, bottom, left, and right. That's my understanding. Okay, looks like that understanding is correct. So I guess the padding is from the top. So I guess if you think about it, it's like canvas is inheriting this padding from frame. So then it's going to stuff 50 pixels between them because it's inheriting. Alright, it's kind of like canvas lives in frame's house, and now that padding, that kind of like restraining order, like, or that space is like the rules, playing by the rules. So canvas needs to play by frame's rules, and frame's rules is 50 pixels of space. So use margins to adjust the spacing outside of an element. Alright. Oh, okay. So I think the difference is margin is the space between outside of the class, and padding is spacing stuffed inside the class. All right. And it's a rule basically. That's kind of a way to think about it. So any element in there should have that padding. Using the margin the margin property, give the dot frame a vertical of 20 pixels. Hold on. 20 pixels and a horizontal margin of auto. I think this will move the frame down 20 pixels and horizontally center it on the page. I don't know if I have the syntax memorized properly. So actually the only thing I'm missing is I'm just putting in a comma that shouldn't be there, and that's actually it. Yeah, I just don't feel comfortable memorizing. But here's actually the preview of what it's supposed to look like. So I guess what it's saying is using the margin property, give the dot frame a vertical margin of 20 pixels and horizontal of auto. This will move the frame down 20 pixels. All right. And horizontal margin. So it basically centers it. Add a new div element inside your .canvas element. Okay, so within this div element, so I think it kind of had us in the right direction. So this is a new div. What are we going to call it? So I think I'm going to call it 1 apparently. That's it. All right. write a new rule that targets 1 and set its, alright, so dot 1, and set its width to 425 pixels. So the code passes. Now set the height for 1 to 150 pixels. Okay. Not quite yet. Someday though. Set the background color of 1 to this. So just copying the hexadecimal value. We learned about hexadecimal values before. So it's going to be this color. So this is 1 right here. This is that 1 div element. Its height is 150 pixels, and its width is 425 pixels. All right. Now, the next one is use margins to position the 1 element on the canvas. Okay. Add the shorthand margin property. Okay, let's try this. Margin property with a vertical margin of 20 pixels and a horizontal of auto. Is that right? Okay, it is right. All right, so I think I kind of just had a bad habit of using commas instead of spaces. So to make sure this is still recording. All right. Now, 1 is centered horizontally, but it's top margin. So if you notice now, let's kind of take a look at it. Now, when we put that auto in, so now if you notice, I think we can agree that this kind of yellow, kind of, I don't know, tannish box, right, is in this brown box. We can agree on that, right? So when it says make the and when it says make the auto horizontally, that means centering it in the center horizontally. So this is the horizontal of that brown element that it's in. So it's going to put it right in the middle. That's what it does. Okay, so now 1 is centered horizontally, but its top margin is pushing past the canvas onto the frame's border, shifting the entire canvas down 20 pixels. Okay, because yeah, I think it's that rule again. So add padding of 1 pixel to dot canvas to give the dot 1 element something solid to push off of. Okay, so let's just see how this plays out. So it gives that space right there. Where I think before, that space was kind of just trimmed away because of that padding rule. Or that top margin rule. So it's kind of just obeying that rule. but then when we do that, the padding, it evens things out. So adding 1 pixel of padding to the top, bottom, left and right of the canvas changed its dimensions to 502 per 602 pixels. Replace the padding property with overflow set to hidden. Okay. So replace this with something called overflow, and we're setting that to hidden. But I've never seen this before. Don't know what it is. So I guess it does the same thing. Scroll down to further direction. Okay. Changing the canvas back to its original dimensions. So I guess before somehow it made it big. Add another div. Add another div within the class of 2, just below your 1 element. This will be your second rectangle. So not within. So this is the 1 element. So it's going to be below. So looks like it works. So now we're styling it up. So kind of already know what to do. We're using a 2 selector and set as a width to 475 pixels. Alright, that works. Set the height of the 2 element to 200 pixels. Looks like that worked. Set the background color of the 2 element to this. I'm gonna find out what that looks like. So it's kind of like a red. Kind of color. So that test passes. Centering the 2 element by setting its margin to auto. Okay. So I think that should center it horizontally and vertically. Oh. So margin, if I just make the blanket margin just equal to auto, that should center everything. Create a new div with the class value of 3, right under the 2 element. This will be your third rectangle. Okay, so div class 3, 3, passes, and now we're going to be styling up 3. Set its width to 91%. So that should be 91% of the parent element. Now its height is going to be 28% of the parent's element, because it's relative to the parent's element from where you remember. Change the background color of 3 to this color. Okay. So now we're setting another background color. So I'm going to copy this. So you have kind of a brighter red, it looks like. There it is. This kind of looks like a mess, but I assume we're going to fix that. Center the 3 element by setting its margin to auto. Okay. That should center everything. So now it's looking a little better. I think if we have a better view, it will look a little better. Let's see. See if it passes. Yep, it passes. It's helpful to have margins, your margins push in one direction. In this case, the bottom margin of 1, so the bottom margin of 1 pushes 2 down 2 pixels. Okay, so this is pushing this by 20 pixels. The 2 selector, use margin and shorthand property to set the top margin. So in the 2 selector, so this is a 2 selector, use a margin shorthand property to set the top margin to 0. Oh, and horizontal? Oh, okay. So there's a... So I think it's clockwise, so the top margin, that would be 0. Then what's right on the clock? I guess that would be the right. And what is that? Oh, I guess auto. And then bottom 20. And I don't think I need another one because then it would just be another horizontal. I don't know. Yeah, it passes. Okay, so this is like a clock, right? So making it 0 margins in the top. So I just kind of thought top, and then so that's 12 o'clock, right? And then we think 3 o'clock. What's going on at 3 o'clock? It's pointed to the right. So okay, so horizontal meaning right or left, auto. So that's already set. And then I'm thinking to the bottom. Well, actually, I'll probably make that pixels. 20 pixels, because that's what we're told. Make the bottom margin 20 pixels, so that's at 6 o'clock. But then we're back at 9 o'clock again, and we're to the left, which it should be the same as... We don't really need that because we already have the horizontal set at auto. So I think that should work. Yeah, it works. So step 34. The colors and shapes of your painting are too sharp to pass as a Rothko. Use a filter property to blur the painting by 2 pixels in the canvas element. Okay, so here's an example of a rule that adds a 3 pixel blur. Okay, this is new stuff. So, okay. So it looks like we're in the canvas class already by the selector. Use a filter property to blur the painting by 2 pixels in the canvas element. Okay. Okay. So filter. By 2 pixels. Okay, so now, alright, so hold on. Look at that. Look at that. So this entire thing is kind of blurred. Before it didn't. Before it wasn't blurred. Hold on, so I'll actually show the difference. So before you can see it, and now the entire thing is a little blurred. I don't know if you can see the difference. I'll make it like 10 pixels just so you really see the difference. But now it's like, I mean, if you don't see that difference, that's a pretty hard difference to not see. I made it 10. But now if you make it 2, it kind of looks like a little bit of a blur. It's a little blurred out. So it's kind of like if you had a face that you wanted to blur, you could just upload the image and then apply this filter element and then just blur it by however much you want. So I'm gonna kind of make a note of that. I can see that being useful. Create a rule that targets both dot one and dot two. Oh, create a rule that and increase their blur effect by 1 pixel. So okay. So how this would work is, I believe, I would say 1 and dot 2. And I would make its blur hold on, maybe I forget. What is the blur again? Oh, okay, it's filter. Alright, I'm gonna sum it up. I forgot just after I learned it. But, yeah. If anything, memory isn't my thing. So it's filter, and then blur. Using the blur function. Okay. So I think that's the right way to do it. Okay, so this will apply to the 1 and the 2 element. So the code passes. So the 1 and the 2 will be even more blurred than the rest. So it's kind of like if the rest is 2, so if it's already being blurred at 2 pixels, and then you blur it at 1 more pixel, how blurred is it? 3 pixels. Now increase the blur for 3. Alright, so now I remember the filter. I remember it's kind of a function looking thing. By 2 pixels. Alright, it works. So I think 3 is added to 2, so it's like 3 has a pixel, has a blur of 5 pixels, and wait, hold on. Originally, I think it's supposed to be blurred at 2. Okay, so okay, so the default blur is at 2 pixels. So 1 and 2 are going to have a blur of 3 pixels. So 1 and 2 have a blur of 3 pixels, and 3 has a blur of 4 pixels because it's 2 plus 2 equaling 4. Okay. The rectangles are too small, and their edges don't have the soft quality of a painting. Increase the area and soften the edges of 1 by setting its box shadow to this. Okay, so this is going to be, I don't believe I learned this before, but I'm going to give it a shot. So I'm just going to set it to whatever they're telling me. So that should soften the edges. Alright. Step 38. Use the same box shadow declaration for 2, but change the color from this to this. Okay. So same code. So I'm going to copy that code. Paste it for 2, and then make the appropriate changes. But change the color from this to this. Okay. And that should be it. Add a box shadow to 3 with the values of this. Okay, so box shadow Congratulations, your code passes. Submit your code to continue. Alright. The corners of each rectangle are still too sharp. Okay. So round each corner of the one element by 9 pixels. Okay. Using the border radius property. Okay. So border. I think I remember this actually. Not too well, but kind of. All right, so this kind of makes it more of a circular border. So I did remember that. Use the border radius property of the 2 selector. So now it kind of places us in the 2 selector, if you notice. So this is the 2 selector. To set its top left and top and bottom, so top left radius and bottom right radius to 8 pixels. And top right radius. So I think if I'm right, I can use that clockwise method if there's a shorthand property. So I'll say border radius. So now this is, I'm kind of going on a limb, but okay, so 12 o'clock, what does it want the top to be? Top left. Okay, so I think 8 pixels. Kind of right should be 10 pixels. Okay. Now I think this is bottom left. Kind of think that means okay, top left 8, bottom right yeah, I'm kind of confused, I'm not gonna lie, but I'm gonna learn through this. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm stuck. Somehow that code passed. So I kind of guessed through that one. But I'm using the clockwise notation. So it's kind of like I'm trying to match up what is 12 o'clock. Basically, what I was kind of doing in my head there was I was trying to match what 12 o'clock was and what was 3 o'clock. So it would usually, so if it goes in a clockwise um, shorthand notation, this would be the attribute to 12 o'clock. This would be the attribute to 3 o'clock. This would be the attribute. This would be for 6 o'clock, and this would be for 9 o'clock. So 12, 3, 6, and 9, like a clock. So, so 12 o'clock. So 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So I guess that's top and bottom. Is 8 pixels. And then kind of from bottom left to top right, that would be 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. It's the only way to do it. The border radius property accepts up to 4 values to round the top left, bottom, top left, top right. Okay, so top left, top right, bottom right, and bottom left corners. Round the top left corner of 3 by 30 pixels in top right. Okay, so this is kind of a test to that understanding. I think they're trying to trip me up. So, top left, let's say 30 pixels, okay. Then top right, then bottom right, then bottom left. Okay, so I think I actually got this, and so it's kind of like making a rectangle a clock if you think about it in a weird way. So I guess it knows it's a rectangle, right? So then it starts here, and starts here, and then goes here, and then it goes there. So it's like a clock. So it's like a rectangle clock. So that's the order. But usually, kind of without knowing anything, how shorthands usually work is it kind of is the same idea as like a clock, how a clock moves. So the 30 applies to this top left. Then the top right is 25 pixels. I gotta get rid of the commas. Then bottom right, 60 pixels. And then bottom left is 12 pixels. Moment of truth for the code. All right, the code passes. So I think I'm demonstrating an understanding of this. So step 43, and it's actually 1243. Rotate each rectangle to give them more of an imperfect hand painted look. So rotate the, so I never did this before. So use the transform property on the one selector. So it already puts me in the one selector. To rotate it counterclockwise by 0.6 degrees. All right, I'm gonna struggle on this. Because maybe I don't know. Maybe I learned it once, but I think it's just minus 0.6. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So you should set the transform property to this. So this is really what it looks like. This is my attempts. So I'm going to kind of put under it how it should look. Property to the rotate function minus 0.6 degrees. So that code should work. So this was my attempt. The top is my attempt and the bottom is how it was actually supposed to look. So I'm going to get rid of my attempt. And let's check the code. And the code does pass. All right. So rotate the dot 2 element clockwise. Oh, so I'm already into, okay. I don't know why I did that. By 0.4 degrees. All right, so I'm going to try to remember. All right. I think it's transform, right? And then the rotate function. And should be 0.4 degrees, I think. No. Oh, actually, so I think it's a small. Oh, transform. I'm saying transform, right? So one is transform. And I believe I need there shouldn't be a space here. So I put a space. Let me see if that's it. Yep, that's it. So I just put an unnecessary space and I misspelled transform. I said transform. I don't know why. But yeah, so that rotates it like a clock. 0.4 degrees. So rotate dot 3 counterclockwise. Okay, so now it's getting me in the habit. I got this. So I know it's going to be a transform. Uh, 0.2 degrees. I think that should just work. It didn't work. Misspelling transform. Hold on, let me see if I can see what's wrong with it. Transform. Rotate as clockwise. Oh, did it say counterclockwise? Oh, counterclockwise. I didn't read that. Hold on. But if I can fix it myself. Okay, alright. I literally just misread it as counterclockwise. I said you learn the CSS box model by the Roku painting. Eventually they'll donate. So let's have an idea of how far I've come so far. So we've done all of this, and we've actually done this. We finished this. I was reviewing that for a while, but we just finished this, and basically it's going to be some CSS stuff up until then, and then I think after that I want to try to see if I can build projects, but it's kind of a lot of um, CSS stuff for a while. I kind of want to get really good at CSS, and yeah, I'm just going to be learning that and applying it as much as I can. But I think I'm going to end it off here today.